Is God the one who gives and then takes away? After Job lost all his property and his children and his body became sick, he said, "It is the Lord who gives and the Lord who takes away. May his name be glorified." But is this true? After making the day 9 video yesterday, I received a query from Victor Excellence asking, what about the case of Job? And I decided to take a few days of this challenge to address the book of Job. It is important to understand that the Bible is a sincere book. It is a very honest book. Everything written in the Bible is accurately recorded, but not everything written in the Bible is true. And we ought to differentiate between that which is accurately written and that which is true. And when Jesus came, he said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." So the standard of truth is Jesus Christ. And that is why I normally teach that we read the whole Bible with the lenses of Christ. Because according to Jesus Christ, it is the thief who steals, kills, and destroys, not God, as Job claimed. And it is such a wonder that that verse, Job chapter 1, verse 21, is used up to date in places like funerals, that it is the Lord who gave and it is the Lord who has taken away. May his name be praised. But when you look at Job chapter 42, from verse 3 to 5, this is after Job has been confronted by God. Job is speaking. He says, "You asked, who is this that obscures my plans without knowledge? Surely I spoke things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know." That is Job talking. Job is saying that I spoke things that I did not understand. So Job is already telling you that much of what he was saying in his book, he was speaking from a place of ignorance. And in verse 5 he says, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." And I normally like the Message interpretation of this, because the Message Bible says, Job says, "I admit I once lived by rumors of you. Now I have it all firsthand from my own eyes and ears. I am sorry. Forgive me. I'll never do that again. I promise. I'll never again live on crusts of hearsay, crumbs of rumor." And so you realize the theology of Job was not shaped by truth. The theology of Job was not shaped by the accurate knowledge of God. It was shaped by rumors. And it is later when God comes to confront Job that Job realizes that everything that he knows about God is inaccurate. It is wrong. It is not true. And that is when he admits and he repents, saying that he lived out of rumors. Now, at least Job repented and he moved on. And this is the danger of reading chapter 1 of Job and not reading chapter 42, which is what a lot of us do anyway. We take verses out of context and they become our truth. And sometimes these people are speaking from a place of ignorance. And yet we take their ignorance as our truth. We take their rumors, we take their misunderstanding, we take their misrepresentation of the character and the nature of God as our truth. And it defines how we see God, and it defines how we relate with God. And so we have a lot of Christians who are relating with God from rumors they had. My pastor normally say this: you don't know where they base their revelation on. Maybe it is based on rumors, but you take their rumor as the truth. You take their hearsay as your truth. But Jesus came to correct us. Jesus told us, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Jesus is the standard of truth. What you can't see in Jesus Christ, you can't find in God. If Jesus never did it, God has never done it, God will never do it. If Jesus never killed, if Jesus never took away, if Jesus never made anyone sick, you'll never see God doing those things. It was never God who was doing it. It doesn't matter who said it. If Jesus told us it is not God who steals, kills, and destroys, it doesn't matter who tells you that it is God who stole, who took away, who destroyed. We stick on what Jesus says. Jesus has the final say concerning the nature and the character of God. It does not matter what Job said. If Jesus comes and corrects Job, then we stick with Jesus Christ. And it is a high time to ask yourself, are you going to believe Jesus or are you going to believe Job? Job said it is God who gave and God who took away. Jesus comes and tells you it is the thief who steals, kills, and destroys. Who are you going to believe? Anyway, at the end of the day, God comes to Job and still corrects him. And Job repented. But most of us were left in the rumors of Job. In funerals today, we still hear it is God who gave and God who has taken away. And it paints a very bad image of God. You're telling that to a woman who was barren for 10 years. Then they received the miracle of a child. And then 8 days after the child has been born, the child dies. And then you come and tell them, it is God who gave you this child and the Lord who has taken away. What kind of God is that? I wouldn't blame the woman if they no longer want to worship God. You know, we use that statement, it is God who gives and God who takes away, to even exonerate bad people from responsibility. Somebody goes into the club, drinks alcohol, and then gets into his car to drive knowing very well that he is drunk. And then on the way, they hit somebody's parent or they hit somebody's child. And then on the day of the funeral, the pastor says it is God who gave and God who has taken away. Really? Do you mean God was working through that man who went into the club, drank his alcohol, came and got into his car and decided to make a choice of driving while drunk, knowing very well that your judgment is clouded at that time? Then you kill somebody on the road and it will all be blamed on God taking away? We have to correct such theology. It is bad theology. We cannot keep exonerating the bad actions of men, bad choices of men, and blaming it all on God. Somebody wakes up one night and decides, I am going to steal in somebody's house, and they carry with them a weapon. They go and break into a house, and because the owner is awake and they want to go away with their property, they slash the owner and they unalive him. And then on the funeral, we say, it is God who gave and the Lord who has taken away. No, 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 no. We have to be serious. We can't keep blaming God on the bad choices of people. And it is the high time we start speaking the truth. It is the high time we start telling people the truth. We live in a fallen world where evil can happen out of nowhere. Not because God has allowed it, but because men have the power to make choices. And some people use that power to make bad choices. So we are going to go deep on the book of Job. We are going to correct a lot of the bad theology that comes out of the book of Job. And we are going to see who is responsible for taking away and who is responsible for giving. We are going to see who is responsible for restoring. And we are going to see who is responsible for destroying. But one thing you can be sure of is this: it is not God who destroys, it is not God who takes away. God is a giver, and the gifts and the callings of God are without repentance. God cannot give you something today and then come for it tomorrow. It is not God who destroys, it is not God who steals, it is not even God who allows these things to happen. But we are going to see more of that in the coming days. See you tomorrow.